Hey, soul survivors, I have something kind of important to talk to you about as far as being a super empath and why we have to watch out for that. So, I'm kind of a super empath, and sometimes that can be to our detriment. Also, we're going to talk about the ways that we're attracted to certain people, what to watch out for, why we do what we do, why we attract narcissists a lot of times. So, a quick little story. Super empath. I want to save the world, right? I was very religious growing up. And there was a friend of mine who gave this rough and tumble guy my number. And she was like, just go talk to Cindy. She'll talk to anybody. So I was, the good Christian girl trying to save the world. And he was into drugs. He was into young girls, like 12 years old, putting them in mini skirts, high heels. He was like terrible. So I'm talking to him, trying to change him, trying to save him, and make him see the errors of his ways. And it came a point where it was just not going anywhere. He was not going to change. And I realized that. And I had blown him off. My ex is a state cop. I tried having it set up to where, I'm telling him there's underage girls, there's drug deals, there's this and that. But the cops weren't helping me. So it was like, why am I even doing this? So I spent time with him instead of time with my friends because I wanted to save him. I wanted to make a difference. And in the end, it didn't make a difference. But on top of that, today's Good Friday, and this was back in 1991 on Good Friday, he broke into my place. I was upstairs sleeping, had a fan going because my roommate, there's a room in between us and then her room. She always listened to the TV really loud. So she had the TV as white noise. I had the fan as the white noise. And he broke in, stole my car, torched it, put her cat in the car. It exploded, burnt up, whatever. So it was to my detriment. Wanted to help him. Moving forward, the people that we attract as far as narcissists is kind of like that scenario. We don't realize it in the beginning because in the beginning, it seems perfect. And we think we're safe. We think we have this great relationship. And then it turns toxic and we turn in to trying to save the relationship, trying to turn something that and turn around something that's just not going to go anywhere. Just like that person, they were so set in their ways. And I see a lot of you when I try to warn you as far as being super empathetic, we have to be careful. We are walking into the danger zone when we do that. We have to know what we're dealing with. Just like if you want to save animals, save animals. That's fantastic. Save every animal you can. But the ones that are going to devour you, you have to make a judgment choice. If you want to save somebody who's drowning, you have to make a judgment choice. Are they going to bring you down? Are you strong enough to save them? And, are we strong enough to save our narcissists? They're not going to change, just like that person. And then I got the retaliation, like, fuck you, you're not going to talk to me. He torched my car. He broke into my place, I had leather jackets, fur jackets. I know you shouldn't wear fur jackets, but I had fur jackets and stole, uh, like my roommate had alcohol, like whatever. He just terrorized the place. And that was because I was trying to be nice to him, trying to say, hey, you can have a better life this way. And why do you do that? Um, and in order to communicate with him, this is the other thing too. In order to communicate, whether this is right or wrong, this is what I did. To communicate with him, I couldn't be super judgmental, but he was so skewed in his thinking that it was really hard to do. So I couldn't be like super judgmental. Otherwise, he's not going to listen to me. So trying to like understand and relate to him because I wanted to connect with him. I had to live almost a different life in a sense where I'm like, yeah, I can understand that. I didn't understand it. But I had a purpose. My purpose as a super empath was to save him, save the world, also protect these girls. Like it was really sad. I couldn't set it up with the cops. They weren't willing to help me. But when we're in these relationships of people that we attract, there's a reason we attract narcissists. They see the kindness that we have. But when we stay with like a bad boy or whatever your situation is. I'm heterosexual, so I'm going to kind of, it's just easier to talk from my perspective as far as this video. I usually try to be more inclusive, but you can kind of flip flop it how you need to. But you know, if I was staying with a bad boy, there's something exciting about that because I wasn't allowed to do certain things. I had, you know, when I was 8 years old, my dad became extremely religious and I couldn't watch G-rated movies. I was very sheltered. Even, you know, watching TV, I still don't watch TV because he made it so miserable. I love my dad. He's passed away now, but you know, that it affects your life. And something in the bad boys is a little wild spirit that I had in myself that it's almost like you live vicariously through them, or maybe a little jealousy, like, wow, how can you do that? How can you stand up to that person, or whatever the situation is? But opposites attract because it will fill a void. It'll fill a void. And as far as being the super empath, trying to help that person, I wasn't allowed to be that like crazy wild, not necessarily that I wanted to, but I wanted to change him a little bit more like how society sees it or how I was raised in thinking what is right. And whether you guys agree with what's right or wrong, whatever you were raised with is your perception of what's right, you know? So I'm not saying agree with me, but the perception of being right. And we try to fill our voids. So if you are wild and crazy, you want somebody calm, consistent, and maybe a protector. Whatever is lacking in your life is what you're going to attract. And when you're missing things in your life, you're going to get somebody on the opposite end of the spectrum to fill those voids. The more damaged you are, the further away on the spectrum. And it's going to become extremely tumultuous as opposed to, you know, two healthy people just living life, enjoying it on an even platform because they're used to a healthy upbringing. So sometimes too, we think, you know, we had a healthy upbringing, but were we controlled a little too much? Were we overachievers because that's how we felt loved? You know, that every time we got an A, we were the ones that stood out. We got the praise. And every little thing we've been through will change who we are. And it will affect the type of relationships that we get in. You know, sometimes we think that, you know, we're self-sufficient, but we long to be, I'm female, you know, maybe I was longing for somebody to take care of me. Like I missed that part. Or guided, where I was told, you know, you need to do it this way, you know, to where it's overwhelming certain things I don't know. And I did grow up in a loving home, also, you know, from age 8 on up, religious, but I didn't grow up religious until I was 8. And all of a sudden, I can't watch certain movies. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't go out with my friends um, for the most part. And, you know, a part of me, you know, I'm very, uh, I don't know, because I also gained weight when I was in middle and high school, and I lost 78 pounds, but I was super shy. But then there was a part of me that didn't want to be super shy. I just wanted to live my life. And, you know, I feel alive when I can do exciting things. I love adventures and you know, you see other people that do that. Are you attracted to people that like to do those adventures because you didn't get to do it? So now you either get to experience it or you get to talk about it. Like you did what? And then no way, what happened next? So there's something in us when we are a super empath that is causing us to attract narcissists. Now, they will target us, but we also stay with them. And, the people that you're going to start dating after this discard with the narcissist, a lot of you are here because of the breakup or discard. So we have to be careful that the narcissist didn't damage us, that we're not trying to fill our wounds with somebody else, that we fill our wounds with our own healing and our own self-love. Otherwise, we're going to put that balance off and attract more toxicity. Also, try to stay as even keel as you can, because the more you're going to be a people pleaser, the more people will take advantage of you. When you have boundaries, you get the right kind of people. Sometimes that seems boring because it's predictable, because it's consistent. And depending on what your consistency was as a child, also the different traumas you've been through, it's not always the parents' fault. Sometimes it's being teased at school or interactions with religious people or babysitters or extended family that can affect you. But we all just want to feel whole. And it's interesting that when we get that, it's uncomfortable a lot of times. There's a lot of us who haven't had any traumas. Every trauma we have and every set of praise, also the praise changes who we are. So every time I'm like, I like your hair. Your hair looks really good. Maybe now you're like obsessed with doing your hair because you get praise from doing your hair. And you're like, oh, I didn't realize that's why I always do my hair. I always get haircuts. I always do this, that. But, even like with either food obsessions, I had a friend who was overweight because she said, the only time I felt loved is if I sat down and ate with my dad. Her dad was overweight. And, there's certain families that push you into eating things when you're full. So you feel you got to clear your plate. And, is that necessarily an abusive parent? They want to make sure that you had a full meal, things like that, but it affects you and it could affect your weight. So as far as being a super empath, that we're walking into the fire with that. I think it's good to be empathetic, but we can't save the world. And we're missing out on the people we should spend time with. There are therapists available for people that need it. Sometimes we need it too. But, it's not our job to save the world. We can help people. We can be a good friend. We can be a good partner. But when we stop putting up boundaries or realizing what red flags are, tried helping this person. There were red flags all around. He does this, he does that. And I'm like, I can say, I knew the red flags going into it. I had my car torch broken into, bunch of stuff stolen. My roommate's cat torched because I tried to help someone. So when we're empathetic, we're targets. The narcissist will target that. So when you're a super empath, in a sense, that means I have even lower boundaries. I will take on the extreme. So just be prepared with what you're taking on and what you're accepting, because, you can either be targeted or you can be conformed to adapt to the toxic person. You might pick up some of their traits, or they might say something that is toxic but wild and intriguing, and you might want to try it, but is this something you really should try? So opposites attract to fill a void. But if we can fill that void in a different way or be aware of it and really analyze it, if somebody, let's say, is a drug addict and you never did drugs and you hear like people saying that was fun or something like that, you might be attracted to those people for those stories, but be aware of what road that's going to take you down. You might pick up on the exciting part and put away the detriment. And that's all because of things that we might have missed in our childhood. Also, some people self-medicate to get over the pain. Be careful what you're doing with that. And with being an empathetic person or a super empath, people start getting used to you helping. Just like that guy, he was used to me talking to him. And when I said, hey, it's just not going to work, we have two different beliefs. That's when you get targeted the most. And I know it feels good, saying you're a super empath, but I see a lot of people, the best analogy I can have is just that animal analogy. You can save hundreds of animals, but if you go to save that tiger that hasn't eaten in months, you're going to get devoured. You can't help anybody anymore. That you wasted your empathy trying to save the wrong thing when you could have saved hundreds. So are we trying to save our narcissist? Are we trying to save a relationship that is toxic, that will always cause destruction? They want to devour. It's not that sweet little kitten that just is so thankful that you saved them. They want to cuddle and they snuggle with you and they're thankful. We're dealing with a beast. And I get scared when people say that they're super empathetic, because I get it. And I'm kind of the same. And you have to realize that that's not always good. That when we are talking about a love relationship, that's different than just, helping out at the soup kitchen or maybe doing some service thing. But when we're talking about somebody that we're going to live with or have children with, those aren't the people that you bring into your home. That's where the difference is. And a lot of us are longing for our narcissists, people we want to bring into our home. And we forget the dangers. I had a lady, I was teaching 7th and 8th grade severely emotionally disturbed children, and she wanted to help. She wanted to be a foster parent. And she took on this girl who was extremely physically abusive to her and her children, to where this lady was afraid for her life. But because of the paperwork, she had to keep allowing that child in her house for weeks, scared for her own life, scared for her kids, because she wanted to help. That's a super empathetic person. We can't save everybody. So she felt a need to serve or to love, and she took on the opposite. And that's how she expressed her love, is through the opposite. Just like with that guy I was talking to, that's the opposite. That's the extreme love, right? And when we deal with the narcissist, the chaos and everything, when things are balanced, which is during that love bombing stage, we think it's real. That's just the trap. That they hype it up. There's also no issues. Like, it's still unknown what our triggers are, what their triggers are, where this is even going. It's fun to go to a fair, or it's fun to go, water skiing, or like you can do that pretty much with anybody and still have a good time for the most part. So the narcissist does all these love bombing fun things, or calls us, gives us attention. It's the opposite. They give what they need. And so they love bomb. So they get our attention back. And the manipulation tactics are astounding. But for us to understand who we are, why we do what we do, who we choose. And I just thought it was really important to realize opposites attract, not because it's a good match. Opposites attract because something is missing. So I hope that was helpful, and please like and subscribe. And I need to see my buttons. One-on-ones are available, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys.